Right, hello everyone. Before we get into this video, I do just want to address a few comments that I've received in the last week or so, because you might have noticed I haven't uploaded any videos. I did mention in my last video that I was going away, but I guess some people didn't see that, so to answer some of the comments that I got, that is why I've been in Cyprus. I've been on holiday for the week, but we're back now, and we're back to uploading videos pretty much daily. But with that being said, the fact that I have been away for a week does mean that I don't really know what's happened in the last week on social media and stuff that you guys want me to talk about. I got home at 5 o'clock this morning, and the only thing I've done any research on is the 8 passengers stuff, because that is the most important story, right? That is the thing that you guys want me to talk about. It's also stuff that I feel like needs to be out there the most. But in terms of anything else, I have absolutely no idea. So if you do have suggestions of stuff you want me to talk about, stuff that maybe I might not have seen within the last week or so, please let me know in the comment section down below. That would be lovely. Okay, so I believe in my last video talking about 8 passengers, we mentioned that Bonnie, Ruby's sister, had uploaded a video kind of giving her thoughts and feelings on the whole situation. Now, after I filmed that video, Julie also uploaded a video kind of talking about the same stuff that Bonnie did, but did add a few more details that we hadn't heard from Bonnie. One of these details was talking about how the whole separation of the family even happened in terms of like Ruby and her siblings. Julie goes on to talk about how Ruby didn't even give them any warning, didn't say like, oh, this is what you guys are doing that I don't appreciate, so I'm not going to speak to you. She just kind of ghosted.
A few weeks later, crap hit the fan and she left the family. And she didn't even call me to say, hey, you know, Julie, you're doing this and this, I don't like it, you're living your life in distortion, so I'm gonna have to take some time away from you. No, literally nothing.
But she does go on to mention that Ruby actually contacted their mother and kind of like accused her of stuff that Julie says didn't happen.
She did call my mom and yelled at my mom on the phone for 45 minutes and accused her of things that were not true. It was almost as if Ruby had been making up memories from her childhood. She was trying to grab at anything she could, and she would exaggerate on everything. So she started all of her lies back then, lying to everyone in her life.
Now, obviously, I can't really say much of my opinion in this because we don't know really any of the details. We don't know what the conversation was about, other than apparently, according to Julie, they were kind of like false accusations. The only thing that we have seen recently that could kind of relate to this is the fact that Ruby's cousin did an interview recently talking about how this is a generational thing and it didn't just start from Ruby. Like I said, it's been going on for generations. But obviously, from Julie's point of view here, she is saying that Ruby is completely exaggerating what happened and making up stories. And yeah, I mean, Ruby does lie a lot. So we don't really know what's happened here. Now, also within the last week, Kevin's attorney has carried on his kind of media adventure, doing every interview he can to talk about how good of a father Kevin is. And he's kind of said some of the same stuff that we've been hearing, as well as some new stuff. The most recent interview I could find was from 3 days ago. It's on the Law and Crime Network. And he goes on to give some details. Like I said, some we've already heard. Now, the interview starts off with Kevin's attorney again saying that Jody is the problem here.
That once she got involved in their lives, it just destroyed his family. It did. And he's now trying to recover from that and put it back together. He wants it back the way it was.
Which is an interesting quote, right? Saying he wants it back the way it was, as if the way it was before was all like magical and rainbows and all this stuff. People have been extremely worried well before Jody was in the picture, years before. And in fact, as we've seen from recent articles, the police have been aware of this family before Jody was even involved. And yeah, I have absolutely no doubt that Jody made the situation a million times worse, because that is the type of person that Jody Hildebrandt is. Like, it is completely obvious at this point. But again, it wasn't completely perfect, like Kevin's attorney has tried saying in so many interviews. Now, one thing I did find interesting in this interview, but not really surprising since Kevin is trying to get custody of his children, his attorney actually goes on to mention that Kevin doesn't believe Ruby's side of the story in all of this, and he believes his kids.
As far as what Ruby has said to Kevin, has she denied these allegations and said it didn't happen?
They have not had that conversation.
Is there a reason why?
I think because it's pretty apparent to Kevin from the reports that it did happen. He believes his son, and the reports that his son has given to law enforcement and others.
Which again, shouldn't really be surprising, but when Kevin's attorney's been doing all of these interviews, he's kind of made Kevin's opinions very vague, and it's just interesting to kind of hear his stance completely on it now, saying that he doesn't believe Ruby. And the fact that that needed to be pointed out kind of just shows how low the standards are for Kevin and this whole situation, but yeah, there's his stance on it, I guess. And the last thing I wanted to point out here is that Kevin's attorney mentions that Kevin still hasn't had any contact with his children, or at least the minor children.
And does your client have contact with any of his children who are under the age of 18?
Not yet.
Is he hoping for that contact?
Oh, absolutely. That's his ultimate objective, is to be able to have custody of them and to be with them and to guide them and be their father again and to bring his family back together. That is his sole objective at this point.
I just thought that was an important point to put in the video because a lot of people are extremely worried, and rightfully so, that Kevin is going to get custody of the children because, like I've mentioned so many times, Kevin wasn't an angel by any means. He was there through a lot of the stuff that has happened, a lot of the stuff that has been heavily criticised throughout the years, that has made people worried for years. Now, we obviously don't know what the outcome is going to be with this custody hearing, but like I said, a lot of people are extremely worried. When I mentioned this in my previous video, it seemed like the vast majority of people are extremely worried about this and don't think it is a good idea. But we're not the ones who make the decisions here. Obviously, we are just going to kind of wait and see, and I guess time will tell. Another detail that I thought would be worth mentioning is, as we can see here, it says, Jody Hillbrand surrenders mental health counselling licence amid child abuse allegations, Salt Lake City. Jody Hillbrand, a mental health counsellor accused of aggravated child abuse, has voluntarily provided a surrender and limitation for her therapy licence. I mean, I would like to think, even if she didn't surrender it voluntarily, that it would be taken away after allegations as serious as this. And as much as this is a good thing, right, she shouldn't have had a license in the first place, especially with the amount of people that have came out to speak about their experience with Jody. The sad thing is here, I'm pretty sure she could still be a life coach technically. Yeah, she doesn't have a license and she wouldn't be able to say she's a licensed health counselor anymore. But as far as I'm aware, and I could be wrong here, I believe that she still could, like, provide a service to give advice and whatnot. But hopefully, the fact that this case had so much publicity, no one would want to listen to any form of advice that Jody Hillbrand wants to give. And honestly, it really wouldn't shock me if Jody did try to give life advice again after this case was completed and she was allowed to do so in some weird way. I genuinely think that she is so delusional in the fact that she would still give the same amount of advice and the same type of advice. That seems like the woman that she is. I mean, as we've mentioned before, she had her license revoked for a certain amount of time after she tried destroying someone's life, and in fact, succeeded in a way. Now, of course, I'm talking about Adam specifically here. There's numerous other people who have had very similar experiences, but she did ruin his life for a long period of time, and it's effects that he's still dealing with to this day, and she has still carried on giving advice throughout these years. She just doesn't care. And I guess just to give some more context as to how much of a disgusting human being Jody Hillbrand is, we also have some details from the search warrant from the day of the arrest. We actually have a list of some of the items found in the home here, and it says, in the city of Ivins, county of Washington, state of Utah, there is now certain property or evidence described as any and all rope used to bound the victim, duct tape style tape used to bound or cover wounds from being bound by rope, plastic or shrink wrap used to cover injuries, or any other items used to bound or cause bodily harm to an individual or consistent with the criminal charge of child abuse, neglect, or endangerment. Any other victim that could be suffering from child abuse located inside the home. Now, obviously, we've heard some of these disgusting details before in terms like the duct tape and the rope whatnot, which is still as shocking as when we first heard it. But one detail that I personally hadn't heard so far was the plastic or shrink wrap used to cover injuries. And actually, when we go further through the search warrant, we get some more details on this specifically. So it goes on to talk about the duct tape and the wounds, which we've already heard before, and it's still as disgusting as ever. And it says, medical personnel removed the duct tape and located open wounds. The victim informed the officers and medical personnel that the wounds were from the rope that were used to tie the victims to the ground. The victims informed the officers that Jody put the ropes in her ankles and wrists and that they used cayenne pepper and honey to dress the wounds. Now, like I said, this was a detail that I wasn't personally aware of, using cayenne pepper and honey to dress the wounds. Now, I've heard a lot of kind of mixed opinions on this. There's a lot of people mentioning how this could be another form of torture from Jody, and especially in terms of the cayenne pepper on the wounds, that is extremely painful. But then I've also heard other people saying that honey can actually be really good for wounds, especially medical honey, which is really expensive. Now, my opinion on this, firstly, I don't really know what I'm talking about in terms of medical stuff, so I'm not going to give my opinions on if honey is good or not. I've never done it. But secondly, to me, it doesn't matter if she used the honey in a positive way and wasn't trying to cause harm, was trying to help the wounds, because the fact that she was doing that in the first place is clear enough evidence that she knew what she was doing was causing the wounds. Not that you would really need any more evidence to kind of prove the fact that Jody knew exactly what she was doing here and causing these wounds, but it is very clear evidence. She'd been trying to treat them. If that was to actually just try and treat them and make the kids feel better, or it was to kind of take away the look of them so people wouldn't say, who knows? But either way, the fact that she was trying to treat them in the first place is clear enough evidence that she knew what she was doing was causing the wounds. And if it is the case that she was using, specifically the cayenne pepper to cause, more harm, then obviously it's even more disgusting than we knew before. It's grim either way, obviously. Now, actually, one article I did see was talking about like using cayenne pepper to treat wounds. And yeah, you don't take this as a 1,000,000% fact. Like I said, this is just something I've seen in an article. While cayenne pepper has long been an ingredient used for medical purposes, it should not be used on cracked skin or open wounds. Do not apply capsaicin cream to cracked skin or open wounds, the medical center's website states. However, with caution, capsaicin ointment may be used on the skin for older children. Do not use topical cayenne ointments for more than 2 days in a row on a child. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of people watching this video will know a lot more specifically about this than I do, so let me know in the comment section down below what your opinions are. Now, one last detail that I did want to mention in the search warrant is it does go on to say that officers identified a possible safe room in the basement that is locked, and it is unknown if anyone is inside. This is obviously written at the time. I'm obviously sure they've checked it now. Now, I was aware of the rumours that there was a possible safe room, but you might have noticed that I never mentioned it in any of my videos because I couldn't really tell if it was 100% accurate or not. And I didn't want to say it in case it wasn't true because there was a call going around and some people were saying that call was actually like a fake edited call where they took like enough of previous call that mentioned a safe room and put it in the 8 passengers call that we've heard. I don't know if that's exactly what happened, but the fact that it was kind of up in the air and it was a bit of a rumour, I didn't want to mention it, but as we can see by the search warrant here, it does say that officers identified a possible safe room in the basement that is locked. Now, obviously, we don't know if this safe room was used to like lock the children in or what she even did with the room at all, right? We don't know the details. In terms of Jodi locking people in rooms, we've heard that from Jessie, which is Jodi's niece, speaking about it, how they actually were locked in like the office at work and whatnot. So you can see why this detail worries a lot of people, but like I mentioned, we still don't know the key details surrounding this specifically. Another last detail I wanted to mention is that Jodi and Ruby's court hearing was supposed to happen last Monday, but it's actually been postponed until October. I don't believe there's an exact date yet. The Utah State Court officials said they needed additional time needed to review copious amounts of discovery, according to local KUTV. Court documents say the hearing will be rescheduled at the convenience of the court on a date after October 5th, 2023. So yeah, it seems like we don't have an exact date, obviously after October 5th, but this is obviously interesting even though it is still pretty vague. They're saying that they got copious amounts of new discovery, which again is quite unsurprising because Jodi and Ruby have put all their business out for years and years. Like, there's so much evidence out there. I can't even begin to imagine how long it would take to go through it out all the years of evidence. It would take a ridiculous amount of time. So yeah, I'm not surprised that this is being postponed. From both points of views, right? The defendants are also going to have to look through all of this and try and come up with a defense. Now, what it does mean is that Ruby and Jodi are going to be locked up for a bit longer, right? Obviously, we don't know if they were going to get out on this court hearing, but I believe it was kind of a possibility. Obviously, their attorneys are trying absolutely anything they can to get bail, which has been declined on numerous occasions now. But with this court date being postponed, I believe that means they are definitely going to be there until that time, whenever the date is actually confirmed. And until then, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what actually happens. And I will say what I've said in every single video. Hopefully, justice will be served, right? You would hope so. There's so much evidence out there. It's not like a lot of cases in the sense that they have to do like a ridiculous amount of digging to find evidence. Like, yeah, obviously they're going to have to do that to find evidence that isn't online. But this is a unique case in the sense that there is already a lot of evidence that is right there in front of you because they put it out optionally. There's just going to be a ridiculous amount of stuff to look through. This is obviously going to go on for a long, long time, but yeah, they are the updates we have as of right now, as much as I've seen anyways. Like I said, I have been away for a week, so I haven't been on social media. So if I have missed anything, please let me know. Also, in terms of other stuff you want me to talk about, please let me know that as well. And yeah, just let me know all your opinions on the stuff we mentioned there. But yeah, if you're new, subscribe, all that stuff. And until the next one, I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, goodbye.